very blessed with a lot of the officers that we have in every unit that we have, as far as uniform, investigations, special patrol, and all these kinds of things. However, I can't say enough about our detectives. They're there usually because of the specialization that they each enhance with the department. And although we have a great cadre of patrol officers, not everyone can be an investigator. There are some people who are cut out for investigations, and there are some people that we may put in that position that just don't work out that way. It's just the nature of the beast. It's a very intense time to be in there, especially when you have such a small unit such as we do, and we have the abundant amount of cases that these people are required to investigate. When I first got here, I was told that a lot of the cases weren't even investigated. This has since changed since my tenure here. All cases, to one degree or another, are investigated, even if it means the detective merely looking at a police report and seeing that there's nowhere else for it to go. All those cases that do have somewhat leads or are serious in nature will be investigated by the detectives, and we are very fortunate to have, in this case, one of them here tonight as a recipient of the Citizen Advisory Committee's Officer of the Month. Charles Varnado has been with the Detective Bureau for ever since I got here, so at least 3, 4, 5 years. That's what he was hired to do. He's a retired, or he's an can I say ex-military guy? He's kind of an ex-military guy. He's on our SWAT team, and I just can't say enough about Charles, so without further ado, let me read this. Dear Detective Varnado, supervisors in your chain of command recommended that you be commended for your actions during the month of October 2011. As a result, you were named the Citizens Advisory Committee's Officer of the Month. On October 20th, 2011, a burglary occurred in the Falls Creek subdivision. Uniformed patrol officers responded to the scene and found the front side door open. Jewelry, iPods, and expensive handbags were taken from the residence by unknown subjects. Sporadically, there have been several burglaries committed in the area during a range of times of day in the past month. The subjects would steal jewelry, electronics, and limited edition items. Subjects would place the stolen items into a stolen pillowcase and leave. You suggested that we go door to door in an attempt to gain information from the residents within this subdivision. After speaking to a number of neighbors, a vehicle description and a description of a female suspect was obtained. An approximate timeline was also figured out when these burglaries were taking place and how they were conducted. You began working on a community watch tip of a suspicious vehicle that was seen coming and going out of a subdivision that fit the description of the subject's vehicle. You set up an observation post and found the subject's vehicle at the residence. As the vehicle left, you conducted a traffic stop. After conducting a field interview, both parties inside the vehicle were subsequently arrested for their involvement in at least 50 to 60 burglaries, illegal drugs, and charges of passing counterfeit money throughout Baldwin and Mobile counties. Now, having said that, I'm sure you read the newspapers or saw the news recently as to this huge case, or a number of cases that we were involved in, trying to get property back to victims and those kinds of issues, and this is that case. You, along with fellow detectives, were able to bring an extensive burglary ring to an end that affected several counties. You are truly a credit to our department and the entire law enforcement community. These actions are in keeping with the finest traditions of professional policing, and I commend you for compassion, selflessness, and willingness to serve and protect others. Sincerely, Phil Price. Now, having said that, let's give this guy a hand. And in addition to that, we also have Jimmy Davis, who's a sergeant in charge of investigations, and this is not one person doing this stuff. Charles had a major role in this, and that's why he's individually singled out. But I'm sure he will testify to the fact that this takes a group effort. In fact, this guy again, Alan Bishop, who's a reserve officer who has his own work and everything else and family life and all that other kind of stuff. He was involved in this as well. So we're presenting this tonight to Charles, but really it took an entire team working effortlessly for days at end, trying to put together all the property, put together all these cases. I'd like for him to go a little in depth into this thing, because what I find great about this sort of stuff is when you get a burglary group such as this, and they try to identify houses, they can almost have a conflict of, didn't we do that burglary? No, you did that. Okay. And that's the way these things go, because there's so many burglaries that they did. Remember this: Spanish Fort, Daphne, Foley, Fairhope, the county. Who else? Alberta. These cases span for, so we got a great group. And let me also say this: we've got these guys, some of them at least, on counterfeit dollars. So the beauty of that is that we can now turn this case over to the federal courts, and they don't play. So having said that, again, Charles, I want to